Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here. I'm joined by Thomas, and today we're talking about a Sundance film. I watched 20 films at Sundance. Two of them were with Thomas, and one of those films is what we're talking about today. Sorry, Baby. The other one is Omaha. The rest, I'm probably just going to do a big tier list and talk about all of the Sundance ones together because I'm not recording 20 reviews, and I also do not have that much to say about a lot of them. But one that I do have a lot to say about is Eva Victor's directorial debut. Sorry, Baby, it has just been picked up by A24 today, as of the day that we're recording this, probably a few days ago by the time this is out. And guys, Barry Jenkins is a fantastic finder of women making their directorial debuts and giving them money to make their directorial debuts. Because he did it with After Sun. And while this isn't like an After Sun level masterpiece,
No.
it is a fantastic film. I really, really love this one.
Yeah. I think it's the best way of describing it, or a good way of describing it, is like a real pain, but good. You know, it's doing similar in terms of tonal creation. It's doing similar sort of things, and it is also very obviously the project of one talent. It is one central voice that is behind it.
Eva Victor writing, directing, starring.
Exactly, Eva Victor, and I think that is what is so noticeably apparent is Eva Victor's talent in all of those facets. In the screenplay being as tight, as funny at times, whilst also being packed with these powerful lines. The monologue at the end, where I assume we're not doing spoilers, but there is a monologue at the end that I think is really successful and well written. The performance of said monologue and throughout the film, the fact that it's non-linear, so you're having to trace this character throughout, but the performance needs to remain consistent, and you need to see that growth, which is harder to do.
And also to be able to direct yourself through that is like I directing yourself is hard, because you have to be overly honest with yourself and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who can help you make sure that what you're doing works. Because I mean, I've made a few short films. It is very easy to just get lost within your own head and just assume that everything that you're doing is working. So to pull off all three of these roles and to have, like, you know, if you were to pick out which is the strongest, or performance or directing or writing, you could make a strong argument for any of the three.
And I think that would slightly be reductive if you were trying to do that, because it's about everything.
It's the complete package.
Like, I am interested to see her act, write, and direct again. I'm not just interested to see her do one of these things. So I think that is the key reason why this film is so successful on a sort of fundamental level. And it has that energy and that freshness that I think you only can really get with these kind of featured directorial things at Sundance that come out every few years. And this is why it has received such comparisons to Lady Bird or something like Fleabag, which I know isn't a Sundance film, but it was a featured. It was a debut piece of art from this person, from Waller-Bridge. So it's why it has received these comparisons. I think those comparisons are very apt, because it does have that sense of uniqueness, I think, that is also pivotal to it being successful, and it really works.
Right, and like I felt a very strong comparison, I guess, and I'm not the first person to say this, but to early Greta Gerwig work, things like Frances Ha, things like Mistress America that she wrote and starred in, and I know we also talked about comparisons to Worst Person in the World. Like it feels like, and I was trying to think about why this felt so fresh, because it feels like another, you know, just very well done dramedy, right? But again, we've seen that with Worst Person in the World. We saw that with, you know, even as you mentioned, Lady Bird with Greta Gerwig. We've seen these types of films, and it really is. I don't know. I think when we talk about visionaries, we typically talk about like these like big, bold things like The Brutalists, right? Things like Nickel Boys that are these big projects. But I think that this is visionary in the same way, and I think it really just comes down to how deftly she handles the balance between comedy and drama. that I don't think we've ever seen, not ever, but we haven't seen something like that in a while, especially from a debut filmmaker. For
Yeah.
someone
I
to
think
bounce back and forth and oscillate between comedy and drama within a scene.
because
There's
it's challenging
yeah,
in that regard. A lot of
it is
dramedies just fall safely on, right, this is the comedy scene, this is the drama
drama
scene.
scene,
This is
and you go back
actually,
and forth.
it actually challenges you into, are you supposed to be laughing at this? I look at a scene like The Doctor's Office,
I was just about to bring it up for those who've seen it.
where, yeah, and we're not going to say why that is a scene in the film, I don't think, but
Yes.
are you supposed to laugh there? Are you supposed to be, actually, this is a really
Devastated?
serious,
Like,
yeah, exactly. It's so uniquely bizarre in its tone, and assured in its tone.
right.
That,
And it
it really
and it
works.
rides that line. And the thing that works so well is, like, to use that doctor scene for example, it works if you're laughing at it, it works if you're devastated by it, and it also
Yeah.
works if you're feeling both. And I think that is what is so incredible about this film, is that it really it really does find that balance in a way that just feels effortless. It finds that balance in a way that you would expect from somebody who is like 5 or 6 films deep into their filmography. For it to come from a debut filmmaker who already has such, like, assuredness in their, that's a word, assured, yeah, it is now.
It works.
Assuredness in their tone, is genuinely just astounding. And I think that is what makes it feel so fresh, because again, it is a visionary piece, even though it isn't this big bold vision. It is a really challenging work to the contemporary dramedy, and it does really feel like a dramedy for our time. It feels very, very modern without feeling obnoxious in its modernness, which I think a lot of, film. I think a lot of films try to be contemporary, and that's their issue. Whereas this just feels natural. And yeah, it just, on the fundamental level, we talked about this after we finished the film, and we were just like, is there anything really wrong with this film?
No.
Because
No.
it all just kind of works. Which is
the one
kind of incredible.
criticism I would launch at it really is that it is taking very clear influence from films like The Worst Person in the World,
Yes.
Lady Bird, and it never quite reaches those levels, I don't think. But that's not really a criticism at the film in a sort of paradox way. It's just that this film is taking influence from very good films and is therefore has been influenced to be a very good film as well.
Right.
Just because it isn't necessarily the greatest film I've seen. There is nothing inherently really wrong with it. It's paced well. It's performed well. Naomi Aki deserves a shout out as well. That relationship was created
phenomenal.
instantly. Scene one, you buy their relationship, which is
immediately
wild.
So Lucas Hedges gives a great supporting turn. I would have liked to see more of him, to be honest. But like, he gives a fantastic little supporting turn.
Because part of me wants to say, that relationship could have been slightly more developed, but it's not his film, really. So I actually don't think it needed to be.
No. John Carroll Lynch has a fantastic monologue, and it's basically just a one-scene performance, but he's very, very good in his one scene. I mean, Eva Victor, she's obviously the core of the film, but she's excellent, as we've said. And again, it feels like it really does add to that conversation of films about trauma, about getting older, dealing with relationships in that awkward mid to late 20s period of life. And it really does feel like a worthy addition to The Worst Person in the World. In that very contemporary conversation, this kind of resurgence of the mumblecore, I guess, not necessarily stylistically, but thematically. It's I mean, I wrote on Letterboxd, like, Eva Victor made the movie that most Sundance films are trying to be. And this is the one, guys. Like, it's it really is the one. I'm very excited that got picked up by A24, because I hope that means they can reach as big audience that it can, and that she can get she deserves an Oscar nomination for this. Give her something. Like,
I was only able to, as we said at the top, was only able to watch 2 films at Sundance, but I feel I have he still, between Omaha and Sorry Baby, completed the entire sort of what Sundance actually is, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like those were two very apt to watch in order to feel like I've experienced Sundance. But
Sundance.
yeah, I was very glad this was one that had received the rave reactions it had. And I hope that long may that continue. I hope A24 distributed it well, because this, I'm looking at probably a low 9, but a 9 out of 10 for this.
Yeah, I'm between high 8, low 9. I'm gonna throw it a 9 though, because as I've said, like, it may not immediately hit you like that. That was astonishing. That was excellent. You will just kind of sit with you, and again, the more you think about it, it is really the type of film that just doesn't have any flaws. Which
it leaves you so much to chew on while still being entertaining.
Delightful.
Exactly. So, yeah.
No, it's a 9. It's an early contender, I think, for both of us for Film of the Year. I would expect this to end up on both of our top 10s by the end of 2025.
Most likely.
At least in and around the conversation. So yeah, that is Eva Victor's Sorry Baby. Already can confidently say one of the best films of 2025.
For sure.
So definitely go see it if you have the chance. But until next time, thank you for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.